Greetings, everybody. Dr. Williams here with the long promised and now delivered review of exam 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a few questions. I went through the exam results and I picked, I forget, 3 or 4 questions that half of the test takers missed or answered incorrectly. So it doesn't mean that half of the classes missed them, but because I had a test bank. So everybody's, when we look at these questions, you may not have gotten one. So, but of the people that were selected to receive this question, half of them answered it incorrectly. So I picked a handful of them, and I'm just going to go through them and kind of show you, give some tips on how to prepare for these exams. The grades were good on the first one, but you know, a better grade never hurts. So we'll take the first question here as our first example. According to the 5-step model of the marketing process, which of the following is the final step in creating value for customers? And you can see that the correct answer is D, capturing value from customers to create profit and customer equity. That's the final, we're looking for the final step. That's the last thing that we want to have happen, right? So, like I say, roughly half the people that got assigned this question, and I don't know how many that was, missed it. So, let's just take a look. In the textbook, let's start with the source material, okay? The textbook. That's where you should always start. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But on page 6 in chapter 1, you can see we've got the model here, the process for creating and capturing customer value. And you'll see the very last step says, capture value from customers to create profits and customer equity. Let's jump back and see that capturing value from customers to create profit and customer equity. Okay, further in figure 1.6 in the text, we've filled out the model as we talked about things throughout the chapter. And we filled out the model a little bit, but you'll see the end result is we still want to capture value from customers to create profits and customer equity. So that question was addressed in 2 different places in the chapter as well as in the text. So let's look at the end of chapter 1, where we have the review of objectives. So the authors, throughout the chapter, you have these learning objectives. That's what I want you to learn, what they want you to learn, what you should be learning during that section. At the end of the chapter, this the left side happens to be from page 31 in the text. That's my handwriting. Sorry about that, but I write in my book. Objective 1.1, they do a write-up, a sample write-up. So suppose that this was a test question. Define marketing and outline the steps in the marketing process, right? So they tell you that would be covered on pages 4 through 6. Then they give you the write-up. So you can see that next, the marketers design a customer-driven marketing strategy with the goal of getting, engaging, and growing target customers. In the 3rd step, marketers construct a marketing program that actually delivers a superior value. All of these steps form the basis for the 4th step, engaging customers, building profitable customer relationships, and creating customer delight. Okay, so if you read those objective reviews, they're already written out for you. That would help reinforce the topics that are covered in the chapter. 2 pages later, you'll see they give you some discussion questions. Now, I would you can get a marketing lab, look for those problems, and you see with the star, and they sync up to this. I would write these questions out. There's 5 of them here. And if you would have done that, define marketing, outline the steps in the marketing process. Yeah, written out in 1 paragraph. You can answer that, short paragraph. Then you would probably remember that when it came exam time. And you could use that to study off of, and you would have answered that question. Okay? So suppose that you say, I'm not going to read the textbook. I'm paying good money, and I absolutely am not going to read a textbook. Well, let's look at the PowerPoints. Let's just look at one of them. You know, I post PowerPoints, modified ones, my modified ones, there where I have added extra stuff, and then the one straight from the publisher that the authors furnish. So this is the one straight from the publisher, and all of these are posted. So if we look at the Chapter 1 PowerPoint, we would see Learning Objective 1 was define marketing and outline the steps in the marketing process. And in that slide deck, you would have seen what is marketing. And you see create value is mentioned in bold. And we want to capture value from the customers in return. Additionally, figure 1.1 here is the same one that's in the book. And you see it ends up with the answer for that question I just showed you. So there are multiple ways that you should have run into the answer for that question. And I'm not even including at this point the chapter lectures that I record, because I covered it in there as well. But I'm going to come back to those at the end. So let's look at another question. Human needs are shaped by culture and individual personality. About half the people that got this question, that were selected for this question, answered true. Now, I don't recall the exact example I would have used in the lecture, but I usually use something like, I need a watch, but I want a Rolex, right? I need a car, but I want a GMC 2500 diesel. Okay? So are human needs shaped by culture, individual personality? If I'm thirsty, I need water. Does it matter what culture I'm happen to be living in or my personality? Probably not, but let's take a look. Chapter 1, page 6. We can see that human needs are states of deprivation. Wants are the form human needs take when they're shaped by culture and individual personality. Then they give the example of an American needs food, but they want a Big Mac, fries, and a soft drink. And somebody in New Guinea would want taro, rice, yams, and pork. Okay, so that's the difference between wants and needs. Notice how they are bolded. That's an important thing to remember too, which I will touch on again. So if we look at the sidebar for chapter 6, if you didn't even want to read all these words and learn, you see over here, needs and wants. Wants are the form human needs, and they're shaped by culture and personality, not needs. And remember, the question is needs. Okay, so in the sidebar, they hit it again. As you're scanning through, you can always read those if you're just reviewing. I wonder if it appears anywhere else. My gosh, look at the end of the chapter under key terms. There's wants and needs again. These are the bolded. All of these are bolded in the chapter. There are some bolded words that don't appear here in the key terms at the end of the chapter, which is, if I were you, I would probably write out the definitions for these key terms because they're key. And in the principles class, we're going to have some vocabulary so that we can at least learn the language. All right, so let's look at the PowerPoint for chapter again. So this is the author's one, of course. I have one up there too, in addition to my recorded lecture, where I speak and explain. I've added some other stuff to the life. So we see this slide of needs, wants, and demands is also on the PowerPoint slide with the definitions and these goobers from Airbnb. Okay, so that's your thoughts question. If you had just done those items that I was talking about, you would have run into that definition 5 or 6 times. It would help you get the question correct, or whoever got assigned that question. So let's look at one more. Paul Robinson, a made-up name, has identified a group of potential customers who seem to respond in a similar way. That's going to be key for us there, to a series of magazine and radio ads for his company's product. So he's identified a group of people, and they seem to respond in a similar way. Paul has identified a market segment, not a target market, a market segment. How do we know that? Let's take a look. Page 51. Every market has segments, right? A market segment consists of consumers who respond in a similar way to a given set of marketing efforts, like Paul's advertisements. Okay? After you define your market segments, then you say, okay, we're going to get involved in one of those. Let's assess each of those segments and see which we should target for our goods and services. So again, just the text of the chapter would give you that answer. Well, let's look a little more. Here's the sidebar on page 51. A group of customers who respond in a similar way to a given set of marketing efforts is called a market. Key terms. I don't know why that's cut off. Well, I don't know. It's page 60 something. Anyway, you can see that market segment is a key term indicating that you might want to know what these are, because there's going to be test questions about them. Tells you where it's located. Like I say, you can write it down or find a Quizlet that has it in it, or I would just write it on an index card to be part of my process after I finish reading the chapter. I just have cards with the terms on them. Okay, so let's keep looking. Oh, look, if we look at the objectives at the end of the chapter, describe the elements of a customer value-driven marketing strategy and mix. Is it in here somewhere? The company divides the total market into smaller segments. Select segments it can best serve. Decide how it wants to bring value to target customers in these selected segments. All right. So you would have stumbled upon it there. And here's a new tool for you, a glossary. At the end of the text, whether online or hard copy, there's a glossary. So if you see terms somewhere that aren't defined at the end of the chapter or somewhere within it, you can always look at the glossary and find them there. For consumers who respond in a similar way to a given set of marketing efforts. Now, you know where we're going next. the PowerPoint. Did it ever show up there? By gosh, look. In the Chapter 2 PowerPoint, both versions, it appears, and I also covered it in the lecture, which I recorded and posted. So all of those questions were missed by half of the people that they were assigned to, but they shouldn't have been. If you'd have just done a couple of things. So I'm not going to just assume that everybody knows how things work. So let me just tell you, were it me, and you may be a whole lot smarter than I am, here's what I would do. Read the chapters. That's the source document. That's the mothership. That's where it's coming from. All right. I felt silly even saying that, but let's just start with that. Watch, listen to, and take notes if you need to on the lectures, which are closed captioned and posted, and you can download them. You can listen to them while you're walking around, wherever you want, however you want to do it. Number 3, at the end of the chapter, there's a section called Objectives Review, which you can just read. And there are also key terms, which you should define, and if I was you, I would write them out. Right? And then you will know all those definitional terms, concepts, theories that I'm going to ask you some of on future exams. And you would just you would be a lot smarter. Answer the discussion questions at the end of the chapter. If you answer those, you write a paragraph answer for each of those discussion questions, you will have answered about every question on the next exam already ahead of time. Use the wealth of online study materials available through my marketing lab. There's enough to choke a horse. I don't know how much that would take, but it would take a lot, but there's a lot of it on there. Review both versions of the PowerPoint slides, theirs and mine. I concentrate. I may not have everything theirs does, but you can look, if you compare them, you can see what I'm really most interested in. But both of them are very helpful. Any additional studying aids that I may make available or that you have on your own, I generally will post some quizzes that you can practice on for that include terms and concept vocabulary. So look at those. And if I've posted any readings, read those. Because if I do, I'm going to ask questions about it. I won't post them if I'm not going to ask questions about them. All right. So if you do these 8 things, you're going to make a good grade. No doubt about it. All right. So I'm sorry there are late test takers. Messed up Teams meeting. But I want to go ahead and get this information out there as we prepare for exam 2. Okay. So with that said, I will see you later.